Hey there nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to another episode of Necromunda Hired Guns, your ultimate guide to the gritty Underhive of Games Workshop's Necromunda. In this series, we dive deep into the fascinating world of hanger-ons, brutes, and hired guns. So whether you're a seasoned gang leader or just stepping into the dark quarters of Hive Primus, our in-depth analysis will help you to master these valuable allies and assets. And on today's video, we're taking a look at 3 brand new hanger-ons that have been released from the book of from the Aranthian Succession from the Spyre Primus. We're taking a look at the Sthenian Spyre Hunter. We're also taking a look at the brand new Indentured Psykers, and finally the Hive Watcher. We'll discuss each of the fighters' characteristics, their skills and war gear, their special rules, and provide our overall thoughts and conclusions on these fighters. And since this video is a little bit more of a deeper dive, I will put timestamps in the description box down below so that we can click and navigate to the particular hanger-on or brute that you would like to see in this video. So that being said, let's talk about the Sthenian Spyre Hunter first. The Sthenian hunting rig is a rare variant of the usual Spyre suits, and as such, no two are near exactly alike. Usually for a Spyre suit, the Sthenian hunting rig leaves both of its wearers hands free to utilize and wield other weapons, adding greater tactical depth to the hunter's loadout. Lady Hera and the Sthenian Spyre hunting rig makes an ideal base model for you to modify and create your own Sthenian hunting rig, and so because that, we'll be talking about exactly what this fighter can do for your gang. So first of all, the Sthenian Spyre Hunter. This is actually a brand new Spyre Hunter that's available to Spyre hunting parties. You can recruit up to one of these guys for your gang that costs 255 credits base. For the characteristics, they have a 6 inch allowance, 2+ weapon skill, 3+ ballistic skill, 3 strength, and 3 toughness, 2 wounds, 2+ initiative, 2 attacks, 7 leadership, 5 cool, 6 willpower, as well as 6 intelligence. Now for the characteristics, they actually have a really good combination of shooting as well as close combat ability with that 2+ weapon skill and 3+ ballistic skill. That 2 attacks base also makes them quite good for shooting, and they have a really high initiative at 2+, which is actually quite nice as well. At the same time, when it comes to their skills, they have access to combat, agility, and savant for their primary skills, with cunning as well as ferocity as their secondary skills. So let's talk about the war gear that they actually come with. The Sthenian hunting rig actually gives you a 5+ armor save as well as a 6+ field armor save, which is not modified by any armor penetration values whatsoever. Now that's actually quite standard for most of the Spyre hunting rigs, so not much really all that special there. But what is quite nice though is some of the war gear that you come up with. Now the Sthenian Spyre suit, just like all other hunting rigs, actually do come with a couple of weapons. The first one is the Medusian Projector, which gives you a 4-inch short range sidearm attack or a 12-inch long range attack as well. Now if you are attacking at the long range, you do suffer -1 to your hit penalty. For long range, you'd be striking at ballistic skill 4+, but at the same time you also put ammo roll of 4+ for the attack as well. The nice thing about this, of course, is that the Medusian Projectors have the flash weapon trait on it, so it doesn't really cause damage, but what happens is when you use this attack, your enemy has to pass an initiative test, and if they fail, they become blind and they lose their ready marker. So it's kind of like using photon flash grenades, except of having an area effect though, you're actually shooting at your one individual enemy. So the idea, of course, here is that you actually go after your enemy, target an enemy, so that way you take away the ready activation, and then you can kind of go in and kind of finish off your opponents for the kill. Now another really powerful ability they also come with too is that the suit automatically comes with 2 Sthenian claws as well. So it does have 2 attacks at close combat right off the bat, and this is before you actually buy any other weapons or equipment for your Sthenian Spyre Hunter, which is quite good. Now the Sthenian Claw strike at strength 3 with -1 AP and 1 damage. They also have the Power Pack weapon trait as well as Pulverize, which means that you actually get 2 attacks right off the bat for each one of your Sthenian Claws. Now it's not that great, but it's still -1 AP, 1 damage, and potentially get them 6 attacks in close combat if you're charging and you arm with 2-hand weapons as well. Now that Pulverize rule is quite nice because if your D6 roller is higher than your target's toughness, any flushed wounds you manage putting your enemy automatically becomes seriously injured, which means you could potentially take your enemy out with a coup de grace if you charge directly into them, which is actually quite nice. Kind of nice little bonus on that one. Now the reason why I bring that up is because there's a couple of weapon options you can get for your Sthenian Spyre Hunter. You can either equip them with bolt pistols, plasma pistols, power hammers, or power swords. Now, the Power Hammer and the Power Sword are quite nice for close combat attacks. The Power Sword does give you a parry save. However, though, I think the best loadout for this thing is actually twin plasma pistols, because at that point you can strike at strength 7, which actually makes you quite deadly against enemy vehicles, and I think that's actually pretty good. Plus, you still got 2 strength 5 shooting attacks in close combat as well. So that's another great reason to actually use those things. If you want to, you could have 1 plasma pistol, so that way you have that one ability to get that strength 7 shot, and plus a power sword, so that way you can parry as well. That could also be potentially a really cool idea behind that as well. At the same time, of course, they do have the special rules. They have reflex enhancers, which means, of course, they can activate twice per activation as well. They have the Master of the Hunt as well as kill count, so they do have those abilities as well. So you don't get pinned unless you get wounded, of course, and you also get kill counts unlock added features to your Spire Hunting Rig as well. You're also subject to Spire Hunting Rig glitches, which could be painful for you if you take enough damage. You could be eliminated, of course, if you have more glitches than your toughness of your character, so that is something you have to worry about. In my opinion, the Sthenian Spyre Hunter is a great close combat option for Spire Hunters, and it can be a pretty decent shooter as well. And like I mentioned before, I think the best loadout for the Sthenian Spyre Hunter is to give it paired plasma pistols, so that way you can use them both in close combat, and at the same time also have a strength 7 shooting attack, which is good against enemy vehicles and other hard targets, because that's going to be something that you have to worry about as a Spire Hunter in the future, is taking on enemies with vehicles as well. Now, as for creating your own Sthenian Spyre Hunter, they said they should use Lady Hera as a base, but the problem with that, though, is that that hunting rig is actually quite expensive. For the price that you'd pay for the Lady Hera model, you could actually get a box set of Spire Hunters that have actually all 4 hunters, which is your Huntmaster, your Jakara, your Yeld, as well as your Malkadon. In my opinion, the best way to actually do this is to kit bash your own Spire Hunting from that kit. What you could do is you can take any one of your fighters, put that Yeld backpack on the back of one of those fighters, and instead of putting Yeld wings on it, what you can do instead is just take either the Malkadon claws, or take some, if you have any leftover Aurus claws, and put them on the back of that thing to make it look like you have extra arms. You can save yourself a ton of money, at the same time make a really cool looking miniature that could represent this. So if you're a Spire Hunter, I think this is a really good way to add additional fighter to your gang, and this one can actually be more of your close range shooting fighter, which I think is quite cool. Indentured Psykers. 3 fates await weirds born on Necromunda. Either enter Helmwar's Psychonariums and undergo conditioning that binds you to servitude, gain the protection of an outlaw gang in return for your servitude, or seal yourself away from the world, always on the run. Being able to set your foes on fire or hurl them to their death only provides a temporary satisfaction in Indentured Psyker's wretched existence. So another brand new hanger that you can actually recruit for your gang is the brand new Indentured Psykers. These guys cost 70 credits a piece, and they're mainly available from the Hive Primus supplement that came out for Necromunda. Now, the characteristics are actually quite basic. They have a movement characteristic of 5 up. They also have 5+ weapon skill, 5+ explosive skill, 3 strength and toughness, 1 wound, 4 initiative, 1 attack, 8 leadership, 8 cool, 5 willpower, as well as 6 intelligence. Now, the intelligence is quite nice. The 6+ could be quite good. Same thing with that 5+ willpower, also quite nice because you get access to psychic abilities. Other than that, though, the rest of their stats are pretty much on par for most juvie level fighters for most gangs. Now, for your skills on this one, you actually have access to psychic abilities. And these psychic abilities are Flame Blast, Freeze Time, Weapon Jix, Terrify, and the Quickening. And in my opinion, these powers are actually not all that great, in my opinion. I don't really like the way that they kind of limited the amount of powers you get, the pool of powers that you can actually choose from. Now, it's nice because you can get 2 of these, which is quite good, but, you know, still not all that great. In fact, if I'm being perfectly honest, if I was actually having any of my players take an Indentured Psyker, I'll pretty much house rule it for these guys. What I'm going to allow them to do is take the Outcast disciplines for the Book of the Outcasts. So that way they can actually concentrate on 1 discipline to get 2 powers from that discipline. So for example, if my player wants to have an Indentured Psyker who uses Pyromancy, they can take 2 weird powers from the Pyromancy skill tree, and that skill tree only is is probably what I'm going to do to that. And the reason why is because, just as you saw in the picture before this introduction, it actually showed the old 90 weird power guys that you could actually recruit for your gang. And those guys specialize in one psychic ability. So it kind of reminds me of the way that the weirds used to be back in the 90s when Necromunda first came out. So that's probably how I'll probably equip them. Now, their weapons and war gear, of course, is not all that great. They have stub guns and a fighting knife. That's all they really have, because what you're really taking these guys for are their psychic abilities, which is why it's so important, in my opinion, that you let these guys specialize in one discipline, because that way they make it, it kind of justifies the fact that that discipline is their primary output, while the stub gun and fighting knife is only there just to protect them in case they get charged in close combat. Now, they do have a couple of special rules. One's called Dead Weird, which gives you 2 powers, which is quite nice. And then, of course, we also have Part of the Crew, which is also a nice little way for actually to add members to your gang as well. So that part is that they're always on the tabletop. The only problem is because these guys have no protection whatsoever, and since they're so fragile, if these guys take any lasting injuries, you're going to lose access to these guys from now on because they leave your service. So at city credits, they're quite expensive for what they can do for your gang, which is another reason why I would let them specialize in a specific discipline, because it makes them more useful and actually worth the cost and worth the risk of actually putting these guys on the tabletop. Now, they also have these 2 other special abilities. There's a Sanctioned Psyker or Unsanctioned Psyker. You gotta choose one of those 2. Only one of these actually gives you any bonuses. A Sanctioned Psyker, you get to reroll 1 willpower test per game in case if you fail one of your psychic powers. So that is for your law-abiding gangs have that ability. And the second one is Unsanctioned Psyker, and that actually gives you nothing really. All it does, it gives your opponents a D3 times 10 credit bounty if they manage to take your fighter out of action. So unfortunately, the Unsanctioned Psyker rule is not that great for outlaw gangs, but unfortunately, if you want to take one of these guys, that's the only way you can do so. So my overall thoughts on this hanger-on is that if you do need Psykers, this could be an option for you. Like I said before, the problem though is that there are hanger-ons, they don't gain experience, they take any lasting injuries, they leave your service, so that part's kind of rough. And for the 70 credits, as rules as written, the abilities you get to choose, not all that great to actually choose from. So that's the reason why I'll probably house rule it for my own campaign. I'm pretty sure a lot of arbitrators will do exactly the same thing as well, just so that way they get a little bit more use out of these guys in our campaigns. The Hive Watcher. When you live in the Underhive, surrounded by secret tunnels, chambers, and lifts, having a Hive Watcher on your side can be the difference between living or dying into an ambush. These sharp-eyed scouts are paid handsomely to stand constant vigil by cautious gangs, yet a good watcher is also a good target, and handsome pay always comes with high risks. Now let's talk about the very last of the brand new hanger-ons that's available to you from the Spyre Primus rulebook, the Hive Watcher, which costs 30 credits. And the miniature looks absolutely fantastic. It looks like a cybernetic nightmare. This like little thing that kind of floats around and just watches things. It's really cool. Anyways, let's talk about his characteristics real quick. It's got a 4 wound allowance, 5+ weapon skill and ballistic skill, 3 strength and toughness, 1 wound, 4 initiative, 1 attack, 8 leadership, 7 cool, 7 willpower, as well as 6 intelligence. Pretty much on par for most juvie level fighters from most gangs, so the characteristics are not all that great. They do have catfall and clamber, which is actually quite good for scaling vertical surfaces that you can drop down and also climb up just as quickly without it having the amount of distance you can travel as well. They also have flak armor as well as a last pistol, which is meh, there's nothing right home about it. It's something, but it's really not all that great. But to be perfectly honest, you're not taking the Hive Watcher for its characteristics, its skills, or its war gear. You're taking them for the special rule eyes on the Hive, which is actually quite nice. Which means now that if you have enemies who infiltrate against you, they have to be more than 6 inches away from you. They must now deploy at least 9 inches away from you as well. Which is going to be very hard for your enemies who have infiltrators to get really good kills in close combat. So for example, if you're fighting against Dalak, for example, those Knuckles are going to have a really hard time trying to make that distance of charge against you in order to take out your characters that way when they're 9 inches away. And that's the real reason why you're taking the Hive Watcher, especially now that we're also playing in games now where infiltrate is becoming more of a thing, especially House Delite gangs especially, but even more so Spire Hunters, right? I did a video where I talked about how to play a Spire Hunter gang, and you really want to spam that infiltrate ability so that way you can surround your opponents and then take them out on your own terms. Well, if you're going against Spire Hunters that have a lot of infiltrate infiltrate, using this Hive Watcher is a great way to kind of keep them away from you and buy a little bit more time to actually do something against those targets that would come against you. So that's the way I think that's the Hive Watcher is the best way to actually being used. Not to mention the miniature is actually quite cool. Not to mention you got those Underhive hired guns that you can get, which are quite nice because you get like 5 different hanger-ons for one box set, which is like the cost of a single Forge Rule miniature, which is also quite nice as well. And like I said before, you really want to use these guys against those who could infiltrate in, especially Delax and Spire hunting parties. So I think this guy is very much worth the cost. They only cost 30 credits anyways to recruit one of these guys. So if you're going against somebody who's got a lot of infiltrators, this might be something you might want to utilize for your gang. So there you guys have it. That's my impressions on the Sthenian Spyre Hunter, the Indentured Psyker, as well as the Hive Watcher. These are some very cool miniatures with some really awesome rules that you could really use in your games of Necromunda as well. And like I always keep on saying, using hanger-ons and brutes and such are a real tactical choice. So if you're unsure what to do and not sure really how to use these guys in your gangs, always default with the rule of cool. Whatever you think is cool and would be a lot of fun for you to use in your gang, that is the direction you should always go with, because Necromunda, as much as we like to talk about, you know, what's strong, what's not strong, what best to use for things, it's very much a narrative game. It's not really all that competitive. I mean, so many random things can happen on the tabletop and throughout a campaign anyways. You really can't control a lot of stuff. So just playing for fun is actually probably the best way to actually do it, and to also play very narratively as well. Now, WYSIWYG, which is an acronym for what you see is what you get, can be a bit of a pain. So if you are playing with gaming groups or in campaigns or in tournaments where they're required to use official miniatures, it could be a little bit of a pain to get some of these miniatures in your gang. Otherwise, though, for most gaming groups, it's not an issue. So, but that being said, go ahead and 3D print, convert, kit bash, or proxy to your heart's content, and just experiment with these guys to see if you actually end up liking it or not. In my opinion, there's nothing worse than dropping a lot of money on a miniature that you absolutely hate. So, you know, better just to try it out first and see if you like it before buying the real thing. And of course, if you guys have any more suggestions on some brutes or hanger-ons that you would like to see in this series, please drop a comment in the comments box down below. If I like your idea, I'll do a video on it and I'll give you credit at the same time. So that's good for this video, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. I appreciate your input as always. I am Commander Cheapskate. I will catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.